This is episode 2 of my documentary series Motorsport in the Electric Age, recorded in 2022, in which Imogen Bogle and I discover an amazing array of truly relevant technology within the sector and talk to leading lights, including an F1 world champion. So Imogen, I just want to thank you for being involved, working on this with me, because you do have a technical background. I don't, so it lends it some credibility that I'm pretty keen to have. But what are you hoping we're going to discover? What do you think we're going to see and hear in terms of all this engineering stuff now that's getting more real world stuff?
Yeah, well, I think there's a part of me that feels a little bit guilty about enjoying Formula One when I'm a big ambassador of electric vehicles and big proponent of electric vehicles. Mm-hmm. But what I want to see is what are Formula One and Formula E doing to lower the barrier to these amazing technologies that we can see out in other applications, not just on the road.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping we get that little window of insight into that world.
Real world stuff, that's what I like. But you did mention Formula One. I didn't, you did.
I did, sorry.
Yeah, and so what I like is this, because this is a pit stop. This is a green pit stop. You can see that. You've got the wheelman, you've got the whole... I mean, you don't want to miss this, do you? We still want to see this happening, don't we? Formula One racing with a tremendous sub 2 second pit stop and all of that stuff.
Well, that's the hard thing, because it's not just engineering. This is entertainment, this is sport, this is exciting. So
exactly, and I think this is it. If it's in terms of motorsport, if it's great entertainment and relevant technology to progress things and to help things, help the world be a better place, to give it its grandiose sort of term, that's what we want to see.
Yes.
I think it is pretty much down to those two things, don't you?
Absolutely, and I think that's nail on the head. Relevant technology. And how do you create that environment that you can explore these extreme parameters to find those relevant technologies that really push the needle, I suppose.
Yes, from Frank Williams' topiary,
very
pit stop
lifelike
hedge.
extraordinaire.
Let's go and find out what's going on. So let's go and crack on.
Senna goes through. Senna leads. Mansell retakes it. Already the Titans are fighting. And what a classic this is turning out to be. Race order. Senna second, Patrese third, Schumacher is fourth. And Fielder fights and retakes the lead. Fantastic. Absolutely incredible. Damon Hill is the world champion of 1996. And I've got to stop because I've got a lump in my throat.
We are in a cathedral to the racing car. There are a few around the world, but this one is our local one, and just look at the glory of it.
It's
amazing, isn't it?
And you'd never expect to see this from the building outside, and then you come in here and it's unbelievable. This incredible lineup of cars, a complete cathedral, as you say, to their racing heritage.
Yeah, and okay, people can say it's a cathedral to combustion engine technology. Mm. Yes, it is, because that's the era we've been in, but we are now evolving into this electric age. So this car is around the time that the advanced engineering part of the company began. Is that right? Was it this one?
Yes, so this was 2010, 2011, which is significant because obviously Williams Racing, and we're talking about Williams Advanced Engineering, which was founded in 2010 as a means to transfer the technology that was being developed on the racetrack and see how that can be commercialised and applied to innumerable industries, which is really cool.
March the 1st, 2022, Fortescue buys WAE and announces the world's first Infinity train.
We'd been working with Fortescue for the last couple of years.
Right, I didn't know that.
And sort of under the radar, like a lot of the projects that we do, recognising that they've got some enormous challenges, but positive challenges in terms of decarbonising their operations, but even broader than that, bringing industrial scale solutions to bear, and culturally are a very good fit with each other. I thought this is a fantastic opportunity for Williams Advanced Engineering, for us to move ourselves from being a very innovative, fantastic engineering company producing some wonderful technologies, but being able to scale that and really making a much bigger impact from a global perspective.
I think it's a fantastic move. You know, you haven't told me to say that.
No.
I'm saying that because that's how, as an industry commentator, I see it, and I think it's going to be a significant part of what happens next. I think especially in, if you like, rebranding mining, if you like, to give it a super focused and efficient proposition than maybe it's had in the past.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say all of that stuff?
It is fair to say all about that stuff. I need to sort of call out, this isn't just about addressing the issues in the mining industry, although clearly from a Fortescue perspective, that's a key requirement. The whole idea here is if we can succeed in the mining industry to decarbonise the mining industry, which is incredibly difficult, very challenging environments, very challenging equipment to work with, and that's what excites us, by the way.
Yeah.
But if we're successful there, and exactly to your point, if we can be commercially successful with that, then that we'll have created technology that can be deployed in so many other heavy industries and sectors to really help decarbonise. If we're not commercially successful, then clearly we won't have created something that is viable long term, because it's all very well talk about decarbonising and a solution for this, but you're exactly right. If it's not commercially viable, it's not viable.
Yeah.
Has to be commercially viable as well for it to be adopted. And then for those that succeed, then I think it's a golden opportunity to create something truly transformational.
So are you surprised that, you know, Fortescue Metals Group, a mining company in Australia, now owns, you know, Williams Advanced Engineering? What do you make of that?
I mean, you wouldn't have thought it's the obvious mix, but actually it's tremendously important, because we've seen applications in road cars, and now these industries that are under a huge amount of pressure to decarbonise, they need all the help that they can get from advanced engineering such as that going on here.
Yeah.
Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. So Fortescue, really interesting. They have recently acquired Williams. They're from the mining industry, a very, very difficult industry to decarbonise, just given the scale of machinery that they have. I'm stood in front of this, frankly, quite enormous looking battery. Can you tell me, what is it that we have behind us?
So essentially this is part of the pack that we're developing for FFI, so Fortescue Future Industries, to go into one of their very large haul trucks. So 300-400 tons, some of these machines. Essentially, it's the same makeup as the other batteries that you've seen, so cells going into modules, going into a pack. What we do here is we actually have 8 of these joined together to produce a 1500 volt pack going into some of the very large haul trucks that you see on quarries.
Wow. So for mining in particular, I mean, these are enormous trucks operating in very grueling conditions, actually, sort of super dirty, super sort of off-grid, and for things like 22 hours a day. That's a phenomenal challenge for an electric vehicle.
It is, and part of the work that we're developing with Fortescue is around some intelligent software control. So across the whole mine site, we can always select which is the best truck for doing the next particular job, whether it be some trucks on charge, some trucks at a high state of charge that can get out of the mine, others on a low state of charge but only need to do a short trip, and we can always select and rotate across the fleet. But it will be a huge challenge.
So that perfect balance of chemistry, software to sort of determine exactly how you can get that perfect mix between the two.
And the whole infrastructure software as well, not just on a vehicle but also at a mine level as well.
And so from one fab engineering enterprise to another, Imogen and I travelled to Woking for a look around McLaren Applied.
I think one of the things that's really interesting is that you have Formula One, you have McLaren Automotive, which is very glamorous and very, very exciting. But actually the critical thing is that McLaren Applied can apply technologies to industries that need help and have enormous challenges. And I think I'm right in thinking that, similar to Williams Advanced Engineering, there are a couple of mining projects underway as well.
We do, yes. So we are working with a mining company at the moment, and that came about because someone said, actually, the way trucks move around a mine is very much like cars moving around a lap. And so we started to apply the same techniques of lap optimization to mining trucks as we would do to a Formula One car.
Wow.
And so we can start trying to optimize the efficiency of those vehicles, how much fuel they're using, how the drivers are driving those vehicles. So we actually take data off the trucks in real time, put them over into the cloud, manipulate it in real time in the cloud, and then send it back to the driver so they know how they can drive better to save fuel whilst they're going around the mine.
It's fascinating, and I suppose, at the moment that does make fuel efficiency much more efficient, but whichever powertrain, whichever energy source, ultimately...
It doesn't matter exactly, it's all about efficiency. So if you can make your IC engine more efficient by how you drive it, you can make your electric truck more efficient by how you drive it, if that's what the future holds for those vehicles.
So the drive to sustainability is not just going to be about powertrains, it's also dramatically reconsidering how things move around and how they need to interact with their environment. And I know that's something that clearly you've been doing with the mining trucks, but I'm right in thinking Atlas also provides that enormous insight to additional customers as well.
Yeah, so we have a product called Atlas, which is our telemetry system. If you ever watch a Formula One race and you see the pits and you see screens in the background, they're running Atlas. It's how we look at data. And that's one of the different things about working in motorsports is all decisions are made based on data. So having access to data and getting that data quickly to where those decisions can be made is really important. A good example of that is a company that we work with who fly unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. They're using Atlas to monitor those vehicles. They're looking at methane emissions from oil and gas fields and running these UAVs to check for anything that's happening there. And they're monitoring it remotely using our Atlas telemetry system. And being able to do that allows them to have a lighter system, so it means they're burning less fuel, but also find problems more quickly, make decisions based on data, and use that to really make sure they're making the right decisions.
So really equipping people with sort of, data superpowers to be even more efficient in their operations as well.
Absolutely.
So talking about superpowers, what better person to talk to than a Formula One world champion racing driver? Their perspective on where we are and what's going on all around the world. As part of the Formula One team, and we always enjoy watching that on a Sunday afternoon, get the flavour of what's going on all around the world. Is this worry or concern or focus on climate change the same everywhere you go, everywhere you see?
I would say not. I would say that it's a strong topic of conversation here in Europe and the UK, Germany particularly as well. But there are some countries we go to where they just have other concerns. They have other things that are bothering them, troubling them more so than concern for the environment. It's not a uniform issue, and that's one of our big challenges. I mean, China is doing something about it. They are planning towards a future of reducing their carbon footprint, but in the meantime they're adding to the carbon footprint massively. I read a statistic, I don't know if it's true, but if we just stopped doing everything now, the UK, we reduce carbon pollution by 22% of the global, it may be more than that, but I think the USA, their energy consumption per head is so huge. To get people to realise that not everyone on the planet can do that, I'm not sure they're entirely sympathetic with that notion.
Formula One is sport, it's entertainment, it's technology. And we're at a stage where some of those technologies aren't applicable to road cars. So from the technology aspect, where do you think it really should be helping other industries?
I think it's a great messaging device. I mean, billions of people watch it, hundreds of millions watch every race. They watch it for the entertainment, let's be honest. Some people are critical of it because they think of it as a wasteful sport and a sport that tries to encourage people to drive too fast. There's too much danger attached to it and it's wasteful. They will look at it and go, we need to stop it. So it's dancing with lots of different concerns, but I think it addresses those concerns, and where it can address those concerns, it's a great platform for showing what can be done. And I think this is the point about Formula One. It's a brilliant messaging device for problem solving and saying, listen, here's a problem, we can solve it. That's what they do in Formula One. They find engineering problems or logistical problems and they solve those problems. I mean, my dad was a real advocate for this. Nothing was impossible to my dad, so always find a solution. And that's the thing that's always impressed me about people in Formula One is you present them with an almost insurmountable problem, like a global pandemic. How are we going to do it? They just find a way.
clearly, like many businesses, we've had to deal with the effects of COVID. So 2020 was particularly challenging because it was something that no one had ever dealt with before in such a large scale impact. You know, as an agile engineering company, used to having people working remotely anyway, like supporting motorsport events and foreign testing events, we were probably well equipped to deal with the effects, you know, of having people working remotely quickly. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that we were able to support the government's initiative with the ventilator programs. And we were instrumental in one of the main programs at that time in designing and increasing the manufacturing capability with others, consortium partners. And we did all of that completely remotely with no one meeting anybody, no one, you know, and that was, you know, from a business point of view, you know, very, very rewarding, and just reminded us, even in those days of being locked down, that first lockdown, that we were still able to make a big impact in what at that time was a really, really, you know, mission critical area.
Motorsport really allows us to rapidly develop features before we apply it to much larger systems. So for example, in my day-to-day life, I could, you know, design or engineer a feature in a week, and then the next week I could see it on track. And that's where I can get real-time feedback of what's occurring. And from that, we can use that data to optimize our systems. And then, you know, maybe a month later, we can have features that are maybe not commercial, but are larger application ready, that are much more optimized and takes the learnings from motorsport.
So basically, it's sort of radically accelerating that process between thinking of an idea and seeing it in everyday use.
It's kind of like, you know, you can, whatever you think about or whatever you can engineer, you can actually put in really quickly and then continually rapidly test until you have an optimized system, which down the road can be used across a wide variety of applications. Definitely did not think that I would be in motorsport growing up, and it wasn't until my undergrad that I really thought that this is what I wanted to do. And we had IndyCar in Toronto and saw these race cars being developed super quickly, and that definitely drew me to motorsport, seeing how things could be applied super quickly.
We kind of have to point it out a little bit. Those who watch Drive to Survive or follow Formula One know that there aren't that many women necessarily in the sport. How have you found that as, you know, being a female in not just the sport but also in engineering? There's
definitely more room for women in motorsport, but you can definitely see that is improving. I have a good number of friends who are in motorsport now, but the numbers are still not there. And what I really support is you can't be it until you see it. Yeah. And so I think that's a big hurdle. What is the path to get to motorsport if you can't see it?
Yeah. So what would be your sort of advice to a young person considering a career in motorsport?
You don't need all the answers, you just need a direction. So pick something and just go for it. Like even if it's not necessarily exactly what you pictured at the start, you'll get to where you want to go.
Come on, without a doubt, it's a privilege to come to places like this. That, by the way, is the first car that Bruce McLaren won in. He was 15 years old, apparently.
Oh my God.
His dad was going to race it, got ill, and then young Bruce said, you know, I want to have a crack. So from the beginning of that, that's where the winning ways started. How cool is that?
Well, from that to this, it's quite an extraordinary journey, really.
So this is last year's McLaren Formula One car.
Daniel specifically, I think we should.
Oh, Daniel, mention. Is it? Oh. What I hope we've done in talking about all of this, yes, it's about motorsport, yes, it's about Formula One, but it's much bigger than that, isn't it? I feel these people are just scratching the surface of what they can and will do in regard to tackling climate change. Because when we say motorsport in the electric age, it's not just what might the blend be or the transition, it's about what is the role of motorsport, the engineers, just the brilliance of it all in this new era. How do we expand it?
Coming here today to this iconic and beautiful location and being able to connect this to what's happening in there, and understanding the relationship between engineering and really pioneering to increase sort of the efficiency and to go beyond 90% efficiency, that's what unlocks all of these other spheres and applications in other industries.
I've got a suggestion, by the way. You've got some influence. You know these people here and there, Formula One people,
I wish I
etc.
did have a little more influence. I think
Oh, I
you're
bet
putting
you
too
do.
much influence into my hands.
Something that's always struck me of late is why don't they run the Formula E and the Formula One races on the same weekend? The track's all set up, all the security and the marshals and everybody there. I'm not trying to pitch them against each other, but when it comes to carbon footprint and resources, wouldn't that make sense?
I don't know if you've noticed, but the circuits they race on in Formula E are specific for Formula E cars.
Yeah, I know,
Because
but I'd like to see them run on the same track. Monaco would work, surely.
They race at Monaco. They do race at Monaco.
But surely they could just do it all on the same weekend.
As I said, I think they're two branches at the moment. Whether one will go off and finally overtake the other one, or they'll converge at some point. I think they'll converge at some point.
Oh, really?
I think it'll
That's
be
fascinating.
it'll be, let's say, Formula One will be 50% electric and 50%, some sort of internal combustion engine that might even charge the battery.
So a few Japanese manufacturers, I think, have been expressing, the hybrid has a self-charging electric vehicle is a misnomer because it's not.
Well, the car itself is charging it.
Yeah, but nonetheless,
So-
it's still got to put petrol in it.
You still have to put petrol in it. But if you get, and this is my point. If you've got an engine that's only got one job to do, you can tune that engine much more efficiently. The engines we have for driving around have to cope with a range of revs and a range of conditions. Whereas if you just have it for charging up and you can make it operate in a much tinier window and make it much more efficient. And so that internal combustion engine will be much more efficient than, say, one that has to cope with acceleration and deceleration and all the rest of it. So, yeah, it'll still burn fuel, but if that fuel is carbon neutral and sequestered from the atmosphere,
well, that's part of a managed transition, surely.
I mean, they won't sound very nice because they'll just be one rev. It'll just be going like that.
So what is it that we're standing in front of here?
So we're standing in front of MP41. This is one of the first carbon fibre chassis Formula One cars that McLaren produced back in 1981. So this pioneered the use of carbon fibre in Formula One from a point of view of safety, but also, and what's relevant to cars today, from a point of view of using carbon fibre for lightweighting.
So obviously lightweighting is an enormous part of driving that efficiency. You need less power requirements, but I think what's phenomenal is that in 1981 using carbon fibre would have seemed pretty unusual, probably pretty expensive, and today it's almost ubiquitous in things from tennis rackets to skis and what have you. So it really emphasises that importance of that technology transfer.
Absolutely, that transfer does happen. Sometimes it takes longer, some things take longer than others, but it absolutely happens. You're seeing carbon fibre now used in lots of everyday automotive vehicles, BMW using it, a lot of their electric vehicles. It's absolutely mainstream now, but was pioneered in, to some extent, aviation, but also in Formula One in terms of that relationship to automotive.
Can you tell me what we've got here in terms of a real super focus on efficiency and delivering something which has made a huge difference and a big impact in this sport?
So the background to us doing projects like this is WAE is always trying to do 1 or 2 projects a year that are sort of making a difference, ideally to disabled. So we had the Carandark bike before this and now this. So we're approached by British Skiing to try and help. So they had a number of devices for their skiers to ski in that were really quite simple aluminium frames. And we thought, well, here's an opportunity to reduce weight, to improve the aerodynamics, improve the way that the athletes sit inside it. There's both an aero past it, but also, if you imagine you're a skier, how high should I be off the ground?
Right.
And what's the best angles? They're not like an able-bodied skier, that this is fixed. Do I have that steeper? Do I have that flatter?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
So trying to set that out, because that is a fixed parameter. There's also a sense of how the skier connects with the skis. So the way that they are strapped into and contained is a direct lift from Formula One type technology, where the seat is formed around the shape of the individual athlete, as it is with the drivers. So of course we've deployed the technology and capability we have in-house to manufacture the carbon fibre. Now we actually also partner with BAE Systems, who helped us a lot with it. So
Wow.
yeah, so in the end, these were made between us and BAE Systems, who also have a lot of interest in that.
So you've got this huge scale of different projects. How sort of unique are each of those projects? Is there sort of lots of learning that you can apply between the two, or does each one have its own very sort of specific and individual set of challenges?
I think they all have their own specific, unique set of challenges. I think where we pride ourselves in WA is taking ingredients from each of those and kind of bringing them together where appropriate, and always about learning and pushing something new for each project as well.
Speaking of which, there's quite an almighty challenge with the Gravity Train project underway. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So it's very early days for us on the Infinity Train project. We've done some of the basic maths, the theory of harnessing all of that potential energy when at the quarry, and the train travelling downhill to the port, harvesting, regenerating as much as we possibly can. So the train in its full length is fully charged up to get back to the quarry. In theory it works. It's now about doing the hard work of the engineering, the motor, the battery design, everything else that goes along.
And I think worth mentioning, this isn't just a normal train. This is a 2.8 kilometre train carrying 38,000 tonnes or something absolutely extraordinary.
To even most of us at WE, the scale of this is quite mind-boggling. I know the guys are talking in the region of kind of 70, 100 megawatt hour battery spread across that whole kind of 2.5 mile duration of the trains, a length of the train. So yeah, huge challenge.
We like to think the inverter is probably the most important part of any electric vehicle drivetrain. It basically takes the DC current from the battery and converts it into AC and drives the motor. So it's the motor controller.
Got it.
Most people think of the motor when they think about driving the vehicle, but actually that's almost a dumb actuator. It's something that spins. It is what it is. The inverter controls it. The inverter is the intelligent part of that. It's the heart of the drivetrain. It does all the functional safety and makes the vehicle act how it acts, basically. And so a lot of energy has been put into developing batteries over the last however many years, because to some extent the battery is the low-hanging fruit. It's the biggest piece of equipment on the car. There's a lot of improvement that can be made. But we've kind of got to a point now where they've been improved to an acceptable point, and now we're looking at what other parts of the vehicle need optimising. And that's why we as McLaren Applied are focusing on the inverter.
So I believe behind us we are printing these circuit boards. Is that right?
We are, yeah. So this is the Formula 1 ECU that we develop. Every single car in Formula 1 uses this ECU to control its engine, to control its drivetrain, even the driver's drinks bottle. So this is made behind us here on our surface mount line, where we print the circuit boards before they get assembled into the enclosure.
That is absolutely amazing.
And you make all that here?
All here, yeah.
You know, the whole thing?
All of our Formula 1, all of our Formula E, all of our IndyCar, all of our NASCAR controllers get built here.
Right, wow. It's a one-stop shop then, isn't it? Now, one thing I'm intrigued about, we've talked with other people about this, is, if you like, the cross-pollination between Formula 1, Formula E and other stuff. So have we got some illustrations of that here?
We have, exactly, yes. So we started developing motors and inverters for the McLaren P1, on the world's first hybrid supercar.
Yes.
Back in about 2011, 2012, went into production in 2013. And that's an example here. This is a P1 inverter. This is 120 kilowatts. We took it into Formula E and became the standard drivetrain in Formula E. And actually, because it was an automotive developed product, actually it was completely reliable as the standard drivetrain in every single car in season 1 of Formula E, because it went through that automotive design cycle. We then did some more work in Formula E with silicon carbide, which I'll come on to in a minute. And then actually brought it back out into the McLaren Speedtail in 2019 at 230 kilowatts. So started at 120 kilowatts, almost the exact same inverter, but using it in Formula 1 to understand where it breaks, where we can optimise it, where we can make it run a little bit better, meant we could almost double the power density 5 years later, and when we put it back into the McLaren Speedtail. And then in parallel with all of this, we did a lot of work in Formula 1 with silicon carbide. So silicon carbide is a switching technology that has been developed over the last 10 years or so, and is just about coming to the point where it's usable in mass manufacturing automotive. So we've used it in Formula 1 and in Formula E to create the most efficient drivetrains we could do, because that's what Formula E is. It's a competition around efficiency.
Yes.
And so that technology now we've brought into our 5th generation of inverter here, which is our automotive developed inverter for mass manufacture.
And power of this?
Power of that depends on the motor, but can be about 280 kilowatts. So it's about a third of the weight and about a third of the volume.
A third of the weight, a third of the volume, and well over double what we have here on the right-hand side.
And it just shows the progression you can make when you use motorsport and automotive together to develop technology, actually how you can move things forward.
You know, I think of electric vehicles and I think about batteries, and I think the industry does as well. But really understanding that we have a tremendous amount of efficiency that we can gain from looking at the inverter and how much the inverter is part of the powertrain. That was really cool to see.
Completely with you, Imogen, and for me this is a fascinating time, definitely.
When you've got a high profile sport like Formula One, it's very easy to point out the carbon footprint of Formula One and all that, getting everything there as well, because it's right in your face, you know. And what we don't think about every day is how our food is grown, how much beef we eat, how much milk we drink, you know, the manufacture of our electricity we consume, and everything we buy. So, you know, we all are complicit, but not all of us can devote our lives to finding a solution. We can be told that product is better for the environment, and we'll buy it. We haven't got time to go through everything we buy and check it out. So, you know, government can play a role in that. It can guide that, but picking on, you know, something like Formula One benefits, but it also has to answer it for itself.
Yes.
And in answering for itself, it's showing how we can answer for everything. Everyone has a responsibility to offset the carbon somehow. Racing is like a wartime mentality. We haven't got time. You've got to have a program that is thinking ahead. You've got to have, at some point you have to make a decision which way you're going to go, and then you've got to get your hands on that gear, build it, and make it work, make it reliable, and then put it in the car because we've got a race next weekend.
Yes.
I mean, now that is the sort of mindset that we need for global warming, for man-made global warming and pollution as well. You know, it's always kicked down the road. Governments will always kick down the road. It's too unpleasant and too much of a vote loser. So governments always kick down the road.
Yes.
They're waiting for someone to say, it's all right, we found a solution. Well, the people who have ideas for solution need investment if they've got a good idea, and then they'll find out whether it works or not. It's kind of potentially a free market solution, because they'll spread their bets. They'll go, well, that could be a runner, that could be a runner.
Yeah,
and
it looks like that to me.
Yeah, and we'll see who comes out ahead. But the solution has to be not just a way of making profit, making money.
Yes.
So if the role of motorsport generally then is to solve insurmountable problems quickly and efficiently and at lower cost as possible.
Yeah.
And that requires an enormous amount of focus in one particular direction, and yet we're talking about a future which has possibly a range of solutions.
Yeah.
What's the perfect balance of that laser focus towards solving one problem versus pursuing a number of different technologies?
Well, I think it's an interesting question, that, and I think that you can't ignore the fact that there's a reward at the end for what they do in Formula One. You win.
Yeah.
And so setting a prize quite often is been used in the past to accelerate competition in science. I mean, we have the Nobel Prize for science as well. You know, we have. So if you give a team a specific goal and say, okay, we're trying to fix that, okay, but you get a prize if you get there. You know, you get a Nobel Prize or whatever. Then people are motivated to go off and compete with the other people, and I think that's the essence of what Formula One has, is that people who go to work every day go, we don't want to be 5th, 6th. We want to win. We want to show we're better. I worked my life in aerodynamics, and I want to show that we're better than the other lot.
Yes.
And that's human nature at work, helping solve a problem. If you give someone a massive problem and go, probably got 50 years to sort this out. You know, it's not motivating, is it?
No. Well, we definitely don't have time with many of these challenges right now. You can develop in inverters. Can you develop in some of the other technology we're talking about? Can you see that, McLaren Applied can take out into the wider world. The big challenges of climate change, maximising efficiency, maximising utilisation, all these epic challenges in aviation and shipping and so on and so forth. What are you doing there?
So from our point of view, actually, the opportunities are limitless, and our biggest problems are trying to focus on which opportunities can have the most impact. That's one of the reasons why one of our big focuses is on the inverter, because we see it as the heart of the drivetrain, because it has such a big impact on the efficiency of an EV. That's why we're focusing on it. Likewise, we have solutions in public transport where we're developing connectivity solutions in trains. That's all about developing lighter weight solutions that provide better customer service for people on the trains. And that it's all about trying to find the best technology that we can use in those different applications.
So we're now standing by a fridge with cold drinks in it.
Yeah, so I mean the issue here, which I think is fairly clear, isn't it, is you're pumping cold air in this to keep all your food or your drinks, in this case, cold. And as you pump it out, it just comes straight out.
Yeah,
into
horribly inefficient.
Yeah, just horrid. The issue here with these foils, which you can just about see on the front, you can see I put my hand through.
All right,
We've got this is what they look like. So they're sat a short distance away from the shelf.
Yep.
And the idea is the air is relatively slow moving. As it falls off the shelf, the aerofoil shape, which we can see here, directs the air back into the line of the one below, that then directs it back. So the air comes out, down, until eventually it gets sucked back in the bottom here.
Right.
So
and is that just like on an F1 car? Is that like the aerofoil technology you would have?
It is an
Not
aerofoil.
exactly the same,
yeah,
but-
I mean, it is an aerofoil shape. We had to develop how intense is that shape, how long is the shape, how far out from the fridge, what's the angle of attack, all the normal things that you'd be looking at in a normal aerofoil design had to be developed. And I think you go around pretty much any supermarket in the UK now, they have these things fitted.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. How practical is it in terms of cost? You know, what's its return on investment, if you like?
The savings in electricity is of the order of, let's just say it's 50% of what it was. Yeah?
Wow.
So it's a huge improvement in what you're doing in terms of the efficiency of the fridge. Fridges in UK supermarkets, depends on what estimate, can be up to something like 1% of our total national electricity usage.
Good
So
grief, yeah.
it's potentially a very big
Huge.
saving when you get it.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned is that you have to have this prize, the sense of competition to force some of those changes. And yet 2050 and other dates seem really, really far away, and that we need those kind of quicker wins. How do you think things like Formula One and Formula E can keep one eye on that long-term vision and deliver really short-term quick wins that keep people engaged in the sports and the technology?
I mean, in the past, they've looked at rare materials and stuff and used them in engines, and then the Formula One has said, that's going to make it so expensive, we can't have that, so they ban it. But maybe we'll have to have that in something like Formula E, you know, to make the massive gains necessary to make it sell the concept of electricity being a solution for all of us. Yeah, it's going to be science fiction. It's going to have to be.
Are you optimistic, or, I know it's a bit binary, optimistic or pessimistic? What is your sense of how are we going to tackle these immense challenges that humanity has? You know, you're a family man, you've got children.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the future. I think I can see that we are entering a phase of human history, planetary history, where we have changed the environment we live in. We're rampaging through the Earth resources. We have an increasing population, and we have to do something because these things are being felt now. You know, the war in Ukraine. Ukraine produces something like 30% of the world's wheat.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, how much of this is about resources? You know, and so
Yeah.
you know, when you start talking about, you know, the resources we need for electric, for batteries and oil. Let's be honest. The problem we have, the irony is, there seems to be plenty of oil, and yet we can't use it. We've got to really think quickly about what we're going to do.
So Imogen, we've spoken to a lot of people, spent a bit of time here and there, you know, Williams, McLaren, spoke to a Formula One world champion. Do you think we've got the gist, or we've got some detail, evidence of what motorsport, the electric age, is all about?
I think we have started to skim the surface for sure, but it's been one of those things that we've asked a few questions and it's completely opened up Pandora's box and just revealed how many questions there are still to answer.
Yeah, yeah.
But certainly what it's shown me is that motorsport is a platform to investigate technologies and extreme parameters, and as such can develop stuff for other fields. And it's been really nice to see that that doesn't just mean directly automotive, but some of these industries where they have tremendous challenges and need support to be able to decarbonise, like for example the gravity train and the mining trucks with Fortescue. Motorsport has a global platform, has a global audience, and as such it has enormous amounts of influence.
Yep.
And so whatever format that it exists in the future, it has to make sure that it is doing some sort of good that does trickle down.
Yes.
And does ultimately push us towards a direction of achieving net zero.
I think you're right. It is that responsibility when you have that platform to not only be seen to be doing the right thing, you know, you talk about brand and greenwashing, but you actually must do the right thing. You know, it's got to be credible, it's got to be real. We can't play games anymore with the future because we've done that and look where it's got us, one way or the other.
And hopefully making something entertaining, engaging, competitive can be a really positive part in
Well,
that.
I hope so. I think the first episode, just getting that mix between Formula One and Formula E, that kind of dynamic, there was a lot of that in that. This second one is about what are some of the tools and technical solutions that are going to work, focusing on efficiency. Who knows what we maybe do a third episode? What might we do that on? Who knows? Maybe we can get people give us some ideas. But I've really enjoyed working with you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for letting me join you on this journey. I think what a privilege to go into these absolute powerhouses of innovation and technology and just dig a little bit beneath the surface and see what's going on. It's been amazing.